Afternoon, everybody. We are a little bit past 12 o'clock, so we are going to go ahead and get started. I am going to go ahead and preface this that it is spring break, so you may hear children in the background. I have two toddlers home today, and it's nap time, which is not their favorite part of the day. So I apologize for that. But welcome everybody to our fourth episode of our For Our Rivers educational webinar series. My name is Emily Floor, and I'm the Executive Director for St. Mary's Riverkeeper. Today's webinar is an opportunity for everyone to learn more about ecotourism in the city of St. Mary's and Camden County, which are all gateway communities to Cumberland Island National Seashore. This episode will hopefully address and answer some of the questions you may have about gateway communities and why an industry such as ecotourism is the second largest revenue in the state of Georgia. This is our last scheduled webinar for the series, but we hope to offer more in the future to continue learning about our St. Mary's River watershed from swamp to sea. You can find the recordings from all of our webinars on our website, www.stmarysriverkeeper.org/advocacy webinars. Today, we are joined by Angela Wigger, Executive Director for St. Mary's Convention and Visitors Bureau, and James Coughlin from Camden County Joint Development Authority. But before we get into that today, we're going to discuss St. Mary's Riverkeeper's work to protect the St. Mary's River, our efforts to monitor and educate the public about the health of our river, and ways you can engage today. We will then hear from our guest speakers and end with a Q&A from our viewers. So to begin, we're going to talk about St. Mary's Riverkeeper. Founded in 2016, St. Mary's Riverkeeper is dedicated to improving water quality in areas that are designated as swimmable or fishable, ensuring the river thrives for future generations with our work on resiliency projects and community partnerships, promoting low-impact development in a fast-growing area, finding solutions for water-related issues in the watershed, and advocating against industrial threats in our underserved communities. As a trusted voice for the St. Mary's River, Riverkeeper fulfills its mission by investigating pollution problems and seeking solutions to protect the St. Mary's River, ensuring environmental regulations are implemented and enforced, advocating for the protection of our river, and participating in the decision-making process to represent the interest of our river, members, and the community, educating the public about the St. Mary's River and the issues impacting its health, providing frequent opportunities for people to experience and serve their river through boat rides, field trips, and river cleanups, and engaging with citizens to effectively resolve problems impacting the river in their neighborhoods and communities. As a border river, the St. Mary's River watershed is comprised of 4 counties, 2 in Georgia and 2 in Florida, with roughly 160,000 residents who depend on the health of the river for tourism, recreation, commercial fishing, and safe drinking water. Arising from the Okefenokee Swamp, the St. Mary's River flows 130 miles to the Atlantic Ocean at Cumberland Island National Seashore. The watershed is 1,600 square miles, comprised of 40% wetlands, and is home to many endangered and threatened species such as the Atlantic and short-nosed sturgeon. The shape of the river is defined by the natural break and trail ridge. Okefenokee Swamp and the uppermost section of the St. Mary's runs along the western side of Trail Ridge. The river then turns east for about 15 miles as it makes its way through the only gap in Trail Ridge. And then the river heads north for about 30 miles, running along the eastern side of Trail Ridge before turning out into the Atlantic Ocean near the Folkston, Georgia, Hilliard, Florida area. The southeastern corner, about 20% of the swamp, feeds the St. Mary's River, which results in the upper river having zero flow at times and flooding at others. From swamp to sea, the St. Mary's River is pristine. The land along the St. Mary's is almost entirely private owned by timber plantations and private residents. In 2022, Georgia Department of Natural Resources declared 2 sections of the St. Mary's River safe for recreational use, Deep Creek to Boone Creek and Prospect Landing to Little St. Mary's. This upgrade means that the EPD is committed to protecting these segments for recreation with higher levels of acceptable water quality. Some of our efforts to ensure our river is protected includes our extensive water quality monitoring program. We train citizen scientists in Georgia Adopt a Stream protocols to monitor the chemical and bacterial parameters of our river at over 50 sites around the watershed. Our river cleanups, we have several throughout the year. I'll talk about our big one in just a little bit. Our experiential learning opportunities, we have boat rides, paddle trips, bike rides. We go birding. We engage with the local partnerships, local community partners to educate people about the St. Mary's River. Our river enhancement projects, which includes our living shorelines in downtown Fernandina Beach, and then our advocacy and engagement opportunities. Some of our upcoming engagement events, our St. Mary's River cleanup is April 15th. This is a watershed-wide event where last year we had 350 volunteers from around the watershed pull 8 tons of trash out of the St. Mary's River and its tributaries. We also are currently in the mining public comment period. It ends on Monday, March 20th at 4:30 p.m. And you can find out more about our upcoming events on our website. So just to give you all some background on the issue of this mining project, the proposed mine site is, you can see in this image, is circled in red. It's like a little polygon shape. Trail Ridge is a former sand beachfront. It is 1 mile wide, but 100-mile long topographic ridge that separates the Okefenokee Basin swamp from the coastal plain of Georgia. It runs from Georgia into Florida and is rich in heavy minerals such as the titanium-bearing ore ilmenite, which is processed to make titanium dioxide, a key component of some of the whitest, brightest, and most efficient applications: brilliant paints, pristine plastic, gleaming laminates, and durable automotive and aerospace coating. Twin Pines is the mining company, and they're proposing a series of experimental techniques for mining these heavy minerals during the 4 years of this proposed project. There are no jurisdictional wetlands on the mine site. The wetlands actually lost their jurisdiction in 2020. The mining company does not have to work around any wetlands and can destroy all wetlands and trees on the 582-acre site. The Okefenokee Swamp is the headwaters of the St. Mary's River and the Suwannee River, and it's a 438,000-acre blackwater swamp, the largest in America, and is designated a wetland of international importance. The swamp, as I said, is the headwaters for both the St. Mary's and the Suwannee, which provides clean waters to these pristine waterways. The Okefenokee National Wildlife Refuge was established in 1937 to preserve the unique qualities of the swamp. The refuge is located in Charlton, Ware, and Clinch counties in Georgia, and Baker County in Florida. The Okefenokee is the largest national wildlife refuge in the eastern United States and includes over 407,000 acres, protecting 93% of the wetlands that comprise the swamp. The refuge has many designations, including being a Ramsar wetland of international importance, National Water Trail, National Recreational Trail, an important bird area, and is a proposed World Heritage Site. There are also 383,000 acres of national wilderness area within the refuge. The Okefenokee is considered the largest intact blackwater wetland in North America and makes up a variety of habitats, including over 40,000 acres of pine uplands that are managed for longleaf pine for the endangered red-cockaded woodpeckers around the swamp perimeter and the interior islands. A gateway community is a town that lies just outside of a major tourist attraction, which provides services for guests like food, gas, and lodging, which supports the local economy. Both the attraction and the community share economic and ecological impacts. Ecological implications, including those of watershed management, fire management, and urban and wildland contexts, and noise and air pollution are concerns common to gateway communities and their neighboring attractions. Because of this shared responsibility, managing agencies often form partnerships with the local municipal authorities. The refuge is that managing partner, and it sees over 600,000 visits annually, with 10% of the visitations represented by international guests from over 46 countries. From 2017 to 2021, the average annual expenditures associated with recreational visitors to the refuge and its partners, the Okefenokee Swamp Park and Stephen C. Foster, totaled $39.2 million. The swamp has shaped the culture of Southeast Georgia. Most residents in the Tri-County area around the swamp have ancestors who once lived and worked in the swamp as part of their heritage. So now I'm going to introduce our two guest experts. We have two today. Our first speaker is going to be Angela Wigger. She is the Executive Director for St. Mary's Convention and Visitors Bureau and has been for 12 years. She brings 25 years of hospitality industry experience and a love for customer service and community cooperation to her position. Angela held the Convention Industry Council's Certified Meeting Professional designation from 1999 to 2014 and holds the Travel Marketing Professional designation from the Southeast Tourism Society and the Georgia Certified Professional Travel Counselor certification from the U.S. Travel Association. I had to read that a few times before today to make sure I had it all right. We're also joined by James Coughlin, who is the Executive Director for the Camden County Joint Development Authority. And he comes from Rome, Georgia, where he served as the Director of Professional Recruitment and Retention for the Floyd Medical Center. In this role, James traveled the Southeast region recruiting physicians to Northwest Georgia. James was a 2011 graduate of Leadership Rome, and in 2013, he was the governor's appointee to the Northwest Georgia Regional Commission. In 2016, he graduated Leadership Southeast Georgia and now serves on their board. He's the vice chair of the Southeast Georgia Alliance, an economic development partnership between Camden, Charlton, Glenn, Brantley, McIntosh, and Wayne counties. And he is Georgia Certified Economic Developer and is serving as a member of Senator Ossoff's Hydrogen Brain Trust. So I'm going to turn it over to our guest speakers. If anybody has any questions, please, during the presentation, please feel free to use the Q&A. I will answer the ones that I can and then leave the rest for our experts. But thank you so much for joining us, Angela and James. I'm going to switch over presentations, and I will be the next slide, please, person. All right. Thank you, Angela.
All right. Thanks so much. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to the group about the economic benefits of tourism to Camden County and the Georgia coast. I know a statistics presentation, they are not always the most stimulating, but I do think it's good information to know, and I hope it will give you a different or even a clearer perspective on the economics of tourism and the importance of outdoor recreation and ecotourism. Next slide, please. Okay, so we are outside the immediate area of Okefenokee Swamp, of course, but we are also within driving distance, and St. Mary's is definitely considered a gateway community. We are very fortunate to have the Cumberland Island Visitor Center, the Cumberland Island Landside Museum, and the ferry departure point to Cumberland Island here in downtown St. Mary's. We are a Convention and Visitors Bureau, and what that means is that we are the destination marketing organization for St. Mary's and our surrounding area within our county. We are funded almost entirely by hotel, motel, bed tax. So driving longer length stays is one of the most important and one of our favorite things to work on, which is where ecotourism comes into play most often. If you take a look at the slide, the photo that's in this slide, this is one of our typical ads, and you'll see that we highlight Cumberland Island National Seashore, kayaking, cycling, and hiking, all outdoor activities. And every ad that we place has outdoor elements to attract those outdoor enthusiasts. All right, next slide. Okay, so Georgia is one of the most biologically diverse states in the United States, and all of its natural resources give us a real advantage in our state because ecotourism is generally a very low impact economic development activity. And although cultural heritage is a big marketing pillar for us here in St. Mary's, Cumberland Island National Seashore and Crooked River State Park remain our largest attractors. And what that means for us is that the bulk of our visitors, of course, are outdoor enthusiasts, and our marketing efforts go towards those areas. Our rivers and swamps are very important to us not just here in St. Mary's, but the rivers that come into St. Mary's as well. And the reason for that is that we get day trippers that are staying in other communities that come and spend the day here with us, or they are traveling, up the coast or across the state. So they may be stopping at other locations, and then they extend their stay in Georgia, going county to county. And our annual media plan does include a multitude of different options for visitors or places where they can find us. There's magazines, TV and radio, paid newsletters like the one that's pictured on this slide. This is one that went out to the Atlanta area as part of Atlanta Magazine. And we do similar newsletters through AAA Living, through the State of Georgia Explore Georgia program. And that helps us, along with digital and social media, that helps us to reach out to those visitors that are going to enjoy St. Mary's, Camden County, and naturally the Okefenokee area as well. All right, next slide. And I didn't point out, you don't need to go back to the slide, but I didn't point out what the numbers for Cumberland Island and Crooked River State Park are. And Emily mentioned what the numbers for Okefenokee are, and obviously those numbers are important. Last year, Cumberland Island had over 70,000 visitors, and Crooked River State Park had just under 300,000. They were at 275,000 visitors. So those are certainly numbers that we like to see and hope to keep improving on. All right, so this slide, I wanted to talk a little bit more about the numbers for outdoor enthusiasts. So Georgia Coast enjoyed 30.3 million visitors in 2021. And though COVID-19, or through COVID-19 rather, the Georgia Coast as a whole did really, really well compared to other locations, especially urban areas. Everybody wanted to go to smaller places and everybody wanted to get outside. So that really expanded our outdoor market. And since people have really started traveling more, we've seen our bed tax revenue increase very quickly and very dramatically. For us here in St. Mary's, that was an 80% increase from the year before. And many other communities, and you all have more visitors at the swamp, and certainly the beach enjoys more visitors. So they may have seen even more impressive numbers. But there were several factors to the increase. Being outside was definitely one of them. There just was a number of pent-up years of, I guess several years of pent-up travel. So people just really wanted to get out. It is exciting to see people take full advantage of the outdoor opportunities that we have. And in fact, if you look at these slides, I know there's a lot of numbers, but the ones that kind of stick out to me were that 62% of that 30 million number, the 30 million visitors that headed to Georgia, 62% of them participated in outdoor activities. That's a really high percentage and something that we're really happy to see. And it does mean that the outdoors are important to more people besides just Georgians. We have people outside the state that really appreciate and take advantage of our outdoor opportunities. And if you look at the bottom of that slide, take a look at what they spent. They spent $27.3 billion in Georgia's economy. So that's quite a boon for us. And let's see, next slide, please. I know there's more numbers there. You all can certainly refer back to the slides and look at those numbers a little bit closer if you care to. But just let's talk about the economic impact to our area. So some of the impressive numbers that help show travel sector is important to our economy are listed on this page. On the Georgia coast and across the state, tourism benefits put money back in all of our pockets. The economic impact to Camden County reported last year showed that tourists spending generated over $158 million in direct spending. It created $13.9 million in state and local taxes. And that amount saved each person here in our county over $704 per household. And that story is repeated across the state. So that includes the 4 counties immediately surrounding Okefenokee. So there is a benefit to every family when we have tourists. All right, next slide. So if we look at some of the trails that are available in our area, Georgia bike routes and other trails are very attractive to visitors and getting more important all the time. Trail creation, enhancement, and promotion has been a proven economic driver for us here in St. Mary's. And to back that statement up, we have the Bicycle Ride Across Georgia Winter Ride that brings a minimum of $110,000 over 2 weeks in February. We also have the Three Rivers Ride, which is a November cycle event. And that event brings over $50,000 in a November weekend when we're just starting to slow down for winter. Wildlife watchers, they spend $1.8 billion annually. Anglers, those that are getting out on the water fishing, they have a $3.1 billion impact on Georgia's economy. Some of that is spent on Georgia Coast Saltwater Paddling Trail and on other paddling trails in the state. The coast supports over 300 species of birds. And I know, Emily, you do birding trips, so I'm sure those are real popular. But we are also part of the DNR's Colonial Coast Birding Trail. And that does help generate visitor traffic to all 18 sites along the coast that are part of that trail. And that includes, for us, Cumberland Island and Crooked River State Park. And so that's a cross-marketing opportunity for all of us on that site. A great additional benefit to outdoor recreation market segment is that they generate minimum impact on the environment also. So not just the activities themselves, but the travelers themselves are very low impact. And so that is great for us. All right, next slide. Let's see what slide we're on. Okay, Cumberland Island. So one part of what we do as a tourism office in our county is that we plan and we assist with events. We have a monthly music series from April to September that happens on the waterfront at the St. Mary's waterfront called Music in the Park. We plan a Build a Scarecrow event in the fall and a Christmas tour of homes every other year. And we also collaborate with other groups like the Kiwanis Club and the National Park Service for any assistance that they may need, whether it's contracting, marketing, or even acting as a liaison with the city. We're happy to step in and help however they need. The National Park Service Speaker Series, which is shown on this slide, that is one example of one of our collaborations. The Speaker Series celebrates 50 years, the 50-year anniversary of the park. So we have worked with the park since last year, since their October birthday, to really splash that it's been their anniversary and to help them add events that help us bring more people to the area. And the concept of connecting our tourism economies together by cross-promoting outdoor attractions on the coast is one that all of us tourism folks on the coast and across the state use, because we know it encourages longer length stays, and that benefits all of us. So definitely think about joining us for a future event in St. Mary's, and perhaps one of these with the Park Service. I guess lastly, I don't know if there's one more slide or if that is it. Well, there we go. Okay, so lastly, I would say that there is definitely a power in partnership and in collaboration. And it's important that we keep all of our communities connected so that we're moving forward in a positive way. And I guess with that, I am happy to take any questions, whether it's now or via email to the email listed there, but don't hesitate to let me know if I can help you today or in the future. Thank you, Emily.
Great, thanks, Angela. So I'm going to ask a couple of questions for James, and then we'll open it up to both of you for questions from our panelists. I know I jotted down a few things just for clarification, or maybe I had missed something. But James, I would really love to hear about how Camden County could be focused just a lot on St. Mary's right there. They are the gateway to Cumberland Island. They have the ferry service. They have everything else that's going on. But tell us a little bit about what is happening around the whole county when it comes to development in the ecotourism realm. The numbers, which I was really shocked to hear, the 80% increase in 2021. That's an impressive percent for increase. But not also not surprising, because everybody kind of switched to what you said, Angela. Everyone kind of moved outside, and people can live wherever they want to live. So there seems to be a lot of development coming into the area because people can work remotely, as I am today. So James, can you just let us a little bit about insight about what's going on in Camden County right now?
Yeah, thank you, Emily, and thanks for having me. And aren't we all glad we got Angela to do that part of this presentation? I know I am, because that is information that every time she shares it, I'm shocked by the impact that it has, and grateful for it. That's awesome. I think, the stat that Angela mentioned with regard to pent-up demand and the growth that she's seeing and other communities around our coast are seeing from a tourism perspective is not unique to tourism. We're seeing the same, and it's not just me, it's my peers in Glenn County and McIntosh County, and certainly, we don't even need to talk about what's going on around Savannah with massive projects. But the entire coast of Georgia has really started to light up in the economic development environment, if you will. Tons of projects looking this way, and businesses who, just like what you just said, used to require their employees to come to the office in Chicago every day of the week. Many of them have told their employees, you need to report here once a quarter. Or we need to do a weekly check-in Zoom call. But other than that, you can be wherever you want. And nothing against Chicago for anybody that's on the call who might call that home or whatever. If I had to choose, I would probably choose to live in St. Mary's, Georgia, if I was told I could live in either place. And so we've had a lot of projects that are driven by this demand in real estate interest along the coast, a lot of residential interest. RVs, I would say that we've probably got countywide 7 different RV projects in various stages of permitting and trying to get their zoning done and get their financing in place, which is just amazing to me that there's that much demand. But in many cases, it's driven by people who don't have to be wherever they used to be, and they can literally operate their life from anywhere. So that's a part of it. And then, a big project that, Emily, I know you're aware of, and certainly Angela has been the redevelopment or repurposing of the former Gilman paper mill in St. Mary's. Jim Jacoby, who is a very well-known developer who kind of specializes in the environmental repurposing and adaptation of former industrial sites, has purchased that property, and his entire goal with that property is to remediate that and turn it into an ecotourism destination that he hopes will become base camp for visitors arriving by land or those arriving by sea who can dock there along the North River, and will use that as a base camp while they explore Cumberland Island, Okefenokee Swamp, White Oak Plantation, and other assets that we've got in our area. So the tourism component of it is one part of the overall tapestry, but I think this general interest in exploring our area and capitalizing on our environment is driving a lot of other investment. So it's certainly important to me that we protect that so that it continues to be something that draws people to our area and not a negative like it's become in some other communities.
It feels like Camden County is just perfectly situated. I mean, when you look at what the St. Mary's is, I mean, we're bookended by two national treasures. So we got the Okefenokee Swamp at our headwaters, which is only 45 minutes really from Camden, from like the center of Camden County. And then you have Cumberland Island National Seashore, which represents the end of the river as it meets the ocean. And that can take you 45 minutes to get there as well, because you have to take the boat to get there, right? If you're taking a ferry, obviously. So it seems like Camden County is just perfectly situated in this watershed to have the experience of both ends of the river. I know a lot of the values that Angela was talking about was that much of that must have been Cumberland Island, or was some of that part of the Okefenokee Swamp, or do y'all track kind of where people are spending their money and where they're going? You're on mute, Angela. Just so.
There we go. All the numbers I talked about today are just the Camden County numbers. The Wildlife Refuge, the way that they track their economic statistics, they encompass the 4 counties that immediately surround Okefenokee, and we are not one of those. So all those fantastic numbers that you mentioned, and also that we had, they are separate. Now, certainly we have visitors that go to Okefenokee, and a lot of Okefenokee people are going to come to Cumberland, but those numbers are not represented there. And I'll also point out real quick as well that our 80% increase, it did have 4 or 5 different things that were driving it, and one of them I did not mention, big factor for us, was that people started wanting to stay in vacation rentals. So we did have a lot more campers and RVers. And hotel stays, but a lot of people switched over to vacation rentals, and the number of vacation rentals that we have within city limits and the county as well dramatically increased, and the number of people using them dramatically increased. And there was a new state law that helped us to make sure we were collecting the bed taxes with the rentals. So there was a number of things with rentals that also helped raise that number for us.
Thanks, Angela, for clarifying. So James, I'm wondering if you can kind of give us an idea of how, because the Gilman plant didn't, it closed 25 years ago. It wasn't that long ago.
Yeah.
And so there has been a pretty quick transition in the area between pretty much everybody in St. Mary's working at the Gilman plant to now it's this booming town that's inviting all of this in this development to come in, and it's all really trying to capitalize on the natural resources of the area. I know that Jacoby development, there's a really big focus on doing the trails there, walking trails, the rookery that is very famous in St. Mary's, trying to capitalize on that, but also preserving it as much as possible. So can you tell us a little bit about this transition and how we kind of went from this heavy industry to more of this sustainable economic development?
Yeah, good point. And I wasn't here in the early 2000s, but like you mentioned, Emily, from the late 40s until 2002, St. Mary's was dominated by a massive paper mill. And those of you that are on the call, look up the Gilman Durango paper mill in St. Mary's and look at some pictures of it. It's almost impossible for those of us who haven't known it to dominate the skyline in Camden County to even picture that sitting there, massive smokestacks, and that the smell that I can imagine what that would have been like. I've heard the stories of how most of the employees, and there was over 1,000 people working there, had mill cars, that they would drive to work because their cars would be coated in this black soot, and they didn't want to drive their normal family car to work. They had a small car wash type thing at the perimeter of the property to rinse your car off as you came on and off the property. So it's hard to imagine that if you balance that or try to imagine that against what St. Mary's is now. For those of you who have been there recently or even in the last 20 years, it's a beautiful, idyllic, coastal community that has attracted a large retiree population. Of course, we've got Kings Bay Naval Submarine Base here. We've got a very strong population of sailors and Marines and their spouses and families that now call this area home and have now for some time. And when they leave the Navy, many of them choose to stay here or to return to St. Mary's. Many of them say it was the best place they were ever stationed, and so they choose to come back. I think the quality of our schools plays a big part in that, and people wanting their kids in excellent schools. But it's changed. Again, I'll emphasize that I wasn't here when the mill was in operation, but from everyone I've talked to, the town has changed in terms of priorities, in terms of the actual look and feel and smell of the community, and in terms of expectation. When you grow up next to any industry, you learn to accept the realities that come with that. The log trucks coming in and out of town every day, the smoke, the soot, the smell, all of that. When you come to a community and you've never experienced that hasn't been a part of your reality, and you've chosen to make this your home, you've made the biggest investment of your life in purchasing a home in Osprey Cove or Cumberland Harbor or anywhere else in town. When someone introduces a project or an industry that threatens what you now appreciate as this beautiful coastal community, you're going to stand up and ask questions about that and say, wait a minute, that's not why I moved here. And I can definitely understand that. So we're very aware of the expectations of the community. You don't have to go to too many city council meetings before you hear that loud and clear. And the expectations of the leadership in the community, city council and the planning commission and other leaders in town. And the expectation is not that we don't grow and that we don't attract industry and that we don't pursue opportunities to create jobs, but it's that we do that with the understanding that this over here is a non-negotiable. We cannot give up what St. Mary's is and why it is so attractive to people who move here and visitors. So I think operating in that environment, when I'm contacted by a project that I know doesn't fit that mold and won't work, I don't bring it to St. Mary's. I'll take it to either it doesn't come to Camden at all, and that's a possibility, or it goes someplace that it's not as it's not the jewel that St. Mary's is, and we're not trying to protect this fragile ecosystem. But when we do have somebody contact us with a project that fits that, it's who they are, it's their ethos as a company, they value that, they've been here, they appreciate it. That's the one we bring to St. Mary's, and we show up at city council and we introduce them and say, hey, you're gonna want to work with this company. So it's a balance for us for sure. And that ecotourism development that I mentioned at the former Gilman plant that Mr. Jacoby has planned, and he's got some pretty significant partners involved with that project. I know everybody wonders, it's been 2 years since he bought the property. Why haven't they seen anything? It takes a long time to work through the engineering and the planning and the permitting and the partnerships and all that. But soon I think people will see that start to come out of the ground, see dirt start moving. And it'll only enhance that and further our reputation as an ecotourism destination. So I think it'll be a good thing, and it'll have a massive economic impact and create a lot of really good jobs in a healthy way for St. Mary's.
Great. Thank you, James. That was really inspiring. It was really nice to hear that it was, even in a short time, the community banded together to identify what the soul of the city is, and they're going to keep to that, and they're willing to risk development. They're willing to risk jobs coming in order to preserve their soul, of preserving what they have and the character that they're willing to keep in. I know that when the development off of Exit 1 was proposed, I went to one of the town hall meetings, and that was one thing that was constantly said, like, if it doesn't fit the character of St. Mary's, we don't want it. And so I thought that was really valuable and inspiring of a community, and very risky to take that kind of stance, to stand by your environment like that. So I was really impressed by it. So Angela, one of my questions that I had, I'm not seeing any questions in the Q&A, but again, if anybody else has a Q&A or a question, please put it in the Q&A, and I'll read it to our panel, our experts, and get them answered for you. Can you give us a little background on, like, how do you get a CVB started? So why, like, you mentioned that it's funded through the bed tax, but I guess what was the driving force of getting a CVB started in St. Mary's?
So a Convention of Visitors Bureau is actually a state legislative authority. So just like any other authority that you have locally, like the James's JDA, he's an authority, we're legislated by the state. There are legal ways that are covered under Georgia law on how collective bed tax can be spent. And one of those ways is through a CVB, a destination management organization. And so I wasn't here when the organization was originally started, but generally that's the driving force to starting a CVB authority, is to legally spend the bed tax funds that are collected in your area.
Okay, so every community has a bed tax, and it's just whether or not it's pooling someplace or it's getting spent.
Yeah, so legally it can't pool someplace. It legally has to be spent, and there are certain percentages that have to be spent on certain ways. So it's something that maybe not every county has, maybe not every city has, but they have at least a county or a city one in this area. We happen to have, for us, Cumberland has a great Convention and Visitors Bureau that manages the destination marketing for that part of the county, and then we have St. Mary's, and then both of our offices work together along with our local chamber to help promote the stay opportunities that are in the county area.
Okay, well, great. Thank you for clarifying that. And then you had mentioned, so one of the things I just wanted to kind of get a clarification on, because I'm not sure about how familiar people are on the call, but it was whenever you look at the numbers of visitors to Cumberland Island and Crooked River, I know what stood out to me, and I had to take a step back and be like, oh, right, this is the reason why, is Cumberland Island's numbers were so small in comparison to Crooked River. But the point of that is because Cumberland Island actually limits the number of people that, one, can access the island on a daily basis, but also the people that can stay overnight. So there's only private residents that live on the island. There's no hotels. So everybody, if you want to visit Cumberland Island, you either have to stay overnight in St. Mary's or a surrounding city and travel in, take the ferry over, or you camp in that wilderness. It's a primitive wilderness. It's a designated wilderness site. So I just wanted to, because at point it shocked me a little bit of how low the numbers were in comparison to Crooked River, but then I had to remember that Cumberland Island limits the number of people. With the potential for the visitor use management plan getting approved, what do you kind of foresee that 70,000-ish number? Like how much do you expect that to impact those numbers and those visits in the future?
Okay, well, first, before I skip that, let me just also point out that if you want luxury accommodations, you do have the Grayfield Inn located on Cumberland Island. So we definitely don't want to fit them. You have
and Angela, I'm just going to say, can you get a little closer to your mic? Thank you.
There we go. Is that a little better? Okay. So don't forget Grayfield. But with the visitor use management plan, I mean, it's hard for us to say how exactly that will affect. But the idea from the Park Service in increasing that number is that they, of course, would do it in a very careful way, is my understanding based on what was in their report. And so they will spread people out a little bit more. And it would give an opportunity for more people to visit because they won't all be going, at 9 o'clock or 11:45. They, in the future, could possibly add additional ferry time so that you have multiple opportunities to go to the island and multiple opportunities to come back. So that could make a difference in people wanting to go over. Maybe they don't want to go over and spend all day, but they would be willing to go over and spend a little bit less time. So it's something that we think would definitely have, or I don't want to say definitely, but it's something that could have a positive impact on allowing more visitors to make it over to the island. And of course, that's economic impact for everyone as well.
Oh, thank you. And it seems like with that, it seems to correspond conveniently with the number of people that are estimated to move to the area, right? James, do you know what the estimated population size is supposed to do in the coming year, decades, however much they foresee that plan?
With regard to specific numbers, Emily, honestly, I don't have those in front of me. We are projected to grow this entire region in Northeast Florida, Southeast Georgia, is projected to grow pretty dramatically. And think about that. So the school system, the public utilities, police and fire, all of those things are trying to make decisions about long-term capital investments based on those projections. And I wanted to contrast that with some of Angela's points. The impact that tax revenue has, that her tourism visitors create for us. She was absolutely right in that it provides a tremendous relief to the residents of Camden County in that it saves them money. These people come to our community, they spend money. We don't have to educate their kids. We don't have to provide, long-term infrastructure investments, fire and police, and those kind of things to accommodate their needs beyond, serving the hotels or whatever that they might frequent, and restaurants while they're here. But their impact is far beyond the demand that they place on our local services. So those visitors are a tremendous boon to our local economy and a savings for those of us who live here and otherwise would have to bear the cost of those services without that. So keep them coming, Angela.
Oh, that's so great. Thank you, James. That was really nice. Is there any kind of connection? I know that mostly you want to keep your tourists within your own community, spending the money within the county, right? Because they spend more in your county, that means your bed tax goes up. Like the more revenue that you get per the county. So I'm just thinking of this swamp to sea idea. It seems to be a very catchy phrase of swamp to sea, because you have two national treasures very close together. But is there a way to be able to kind of work it both ways of because you advertise Cumberland Island, but do you not like to advertise outside of the county because you want to keep people in?
So absolutely, it actually will work for everyone. Right now, when we guests that come into our welcome center, they come to town, they stop in, and they say, want to know what there is to do in the area. We always ask them, how long are you here for? Where are you staying? And when we know how long they're here for and what they already have planned, then we can help them build an itinerary. And really, it's all about building an extended itinerary that keeps them with us. So we are certainly not going to be selfish and hope to keep them in St. Mary's their whole stay. We do send people multiple times a day up to the Golden Isles, Jekyll Island specifically. A lot of times, the schedule doesn't work for Cumberland Island for them. So a good alternative to suggest when someone can't make it to Cumberland right off the bat is Jekyll Island. Because it's similar. It's that little bit more built up, but you know what Jekyll Island looks like. And then also Okefenokee Swamp. Both of those are about a 40-minute drive or so from here. So they're always good suggestions that people are happy to be made aware of. And a lot of times when we talk to them about those locations, they're happy to chime in with, oh, I've already been to that one, but I'll try this one. Or, so we certainly are happy to send them the way of other communities, because we know that other communities are sending them our way. If they're staying the night with you in your community, chances are we're going to get them for a day trip. So we're still going to have them maybe get gas here, definitely buy lunch. They probably will stop and go through the shops. The way that St. Mary's is set up, it's just easy to meander. So although our preference is probably to have overnight visitors, from my office's aspect, we are happy to get a tourist however we can get them, and happy to share.
Oh, great. Is there, because I represent the river, which connects the two, but is there any kind of development, ecotourism around exploring the St. Mary's River? Because obviously the ferry does go on the St. Mary's because it has to get to Cumberland Island, but is there any kind of ecotourism opportunity to explore the estuaries, the wetlands within the river, or even going upriver into other parts of Camden County?
Well, I mean, there's always opportunities for someone to come in and do that. We do have a rental company right on the waterfront. So if people come into town and they don't bring their own equipment, they can rent a kayak and they can explore the rivers. Crooked River State Park, their staff actually conducts some tours on the river. And they have a printed guide that's a river map with trail markers for visitors to our area that we share often. We also have an outfitter in the area. So, we have a tab on our website, which is visitstmarys.com. So check that out. But there is a tab for that covers trails, and it covers waterways, boats, biking, just anything that someone might want to do. We hope we've thought of a tab where it's easy for them to find that. And so you can find an outfitter there. You can also, most of our fishing charter captains also do tours. Several of them specialize and do tours often. Some of them not as much, but they're all super knowledgeable, and I'm happy to take people out. And of course, we would always welcome new business in Camden County. So if someone wanted to come and open something, I feel like there would be a good opportunity for them to have the business if they wanted to be consistent. And trails are always a great thing for communities to work together on, to connect each other. So, we do have the Georgia Southeast Coast Paddling Trail. Always hard to say that one. But there are a number of trails that are created each year across Georgia, and we would certainly welcome opportunities with other communities for those options in the future.
Awesome. James, are there any in all these projects that are coming in, is there any, what kind of ecotourism aspects? I mean, I'm more familiar with the Jacoby one because it's very near and dear to his heart, but all these other developments coming into Camden County, what kind of ecotourism ways are they trying to get their residents, their visitors out on the water or out exploring? Can you give us a little insight into that?
Yeah, I mean, I'll focus on the Jacoby development as well, because that's only absorbed the last 5 years of my life. But it, you mentioned earlier the Woodstork Rookery that's a part of that property. Mr. Jacoby is making that sort of the anchor. I honestly thought the anchor of the development and the big attraction would be having the marina, and that will be in many ways, but birding is a big focus for him. So capitalizing on that rookery, protecting that rookery, encouraging awareness, and that's a balance, right? Sort of the balance between awareness and access, and not creating something that becomes a nuisance to the birds or in any way disturbs them. But that's important to him, and he's been working with the biologists at DNR and other places to figure out how to do that and do it well. He's got a few videos out, as a matter of fact, that he's not quite ready to send out publicly, but they sent me one of them yesterday. It's just absolutely incredible in terms of the highlight on the wood storks, the roseate spoonbills, the egrets. I mean, there's just a big population of birds out there, and that's I think Angela mentioned the economic impact that those people have when they visit an area. I mean, very low impact from a just impact on an area in any other way, but economically they've got a big impact when they come to visit. So that's important. You mentioned the Exit 1 development, which we'll see. We're the city, I shouldn't say we, the city of St. Mary's is actively working with Radiant, the real estate development division of Rayonier Timber, on the development at Exit 1, and there are portions of that project, or excuse me, that site that do back up to the river, and so they've talked about creating some kind of a hospitality center there that will have access to the river. So we'll see where that goes. I think they've got a long way to go in their project design there, but certainly if you look at their marketing materials and things like that, they're trying to highlight the St. Mary's River and the natural look and feel of the area, as opposed to maybe some of their other developments that have more of a, I don't know, sort of a traditional residential subdivision kind of look and feel to them. I think here they're going to emphasize the way this blends into what St. Mary's already is. So we'll see how that comes along. They've got some miles to travel yet.
Well, they should definitely capitalize on the beauty of the St. Mary's, because it is a beautiful river. I'm not biased at all. Well, I want to thank both of y'all so much for taking the time today. So speaking of St. Mary's, this is a picture I took off of the docks of St. Mary's. The bluffs are out over here off to the right-hand side, over in Florida. But these are just some ways that y'all can engage today with St. Mary's Riverkeeper, as well as the proposed mining permit. So this is actually our last big event during the permit period. So thank you, Angela and James, for closing us out on this. This is our 4th episode, so please visit the other 3 as well. Also, our public comment in front of the Georgia EPD closes at 4:30 on Monday, March 20th. So there's 5 days left. Contact your local officials to urge them to, and this is St. Mary's Riverkeeper talking. This is not any of the words coming from James or Angela. I brought them in for their expertise, but as an advocacy organization, I have to do my little plug here. And then, as I said before, the Okefenokee National Wildlife Refuge is a candidate for the UNESCO World Heritage Site. And that is a huge undertaking to be able to take both financially and time. And so there is a website, I think it's okefenokeeworldheritage.org, and you can go and see what they're doing. You can go experience the swamp, and then you can financially help support them as well to reach that goal. So we could potentially, the St. Mary's River could have a World Heritage at the start, and it could be ended by a national seashore, which would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
I don't know of any other river that would have that kind of a bookend, so it'd be pretty cool. But thank y'all so much. This is being recorded. I'm gonna spend the rest of the day getting it onto our website, so you can watch it later on at another time. But I do want to be respectful of your time, as it is 1 minute after 1. So thank you again, James and Angela, for taking the time today to talk with us about ecotourism in your Gateway community. And everybody have a great day. Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Y'all. Of course.
Bye.
Thanks.